to the third episode of this podcast, Inside Regional Markets. Of course, the podcast where we explore how regions grow, compete, and shape the world around us. I'm your host, Christina, and in today's episode, we're diving into one of the most important questions in regional economics. What actually makes a region competitive? We hear the term competitiveness everywhere, but what does it really mean? And why do some regions thrive while others struggle? Today we'll break it down into four major drivers. Okay, the first one, innovation ecosystem. Second one, infrastructure and connectivity. Third one, human capital and talent. And fourth, industry clusters and specialization. By the end of this episode, you'll understand the foundational elements that help regions succeed in an increasingly fast-changing world. Okay, we're going to start with innovation ecosystems. Let's start with innovation, okay? It is arguably the most essential driver of modern regional competitiveness. An innovation ecosystem is the set of institutions, people, technologies, and cultural norms that allow new ideas to emerge, develop, and reach the market. It's not just about having smart people, it's about creating an environment where their ideas can become real. I mean, when you have all this talent and intelligence to do certain things, of course you have to be don't want to say pushed, but you have to be pushed to give your maximum effort. This happens too with the markets. You have to be capable people, but you also have to create an environment when they all can recreate the work you want them to do, and when they can explode themselves and explore new areas that they don't know that they are capable to reach. So that is why it's important to create this nice environment and to give them the resources they need. Okay, a strong innovation ecosystem includes universities and research centers that generate knowledge, startups and entrepreneurs who test new ideas, large firms that scale innovations, investor and venture capital that fund risk, support networks like tech parks, culture that tolerates failure and values experimentation. I think this is the most important, one of the most important, because we live in a world that when you fail, or it also depends on the culture. For example, we have Asian culture that if you fail in something, you are the biggest loser in the world. You have nothing else to do. Your own family thinks that you are a failure. So we have to embrace these people to work, but also to embrace their mistakes and learn from them. We cannot have a perfect market. That is almost impossible. There are always going to be mistakes, and there always going to be someone who may not do the work correctly, but that is why we have to create a culture and environment safe to be able to make mistakes, but to recover from them, not just be kicked out of the market, not to get scolded in a certain way that may make the worker or the person who made the mistake uncomfortable. For example, we have innovation ecosystems, and they show that competitiveness isn't only about capital or geography. It's about a region's ability to reinvent itself. Regions that innovate, I think that for me, they stay relevant. And regions that don't get left behind, of course that you have to be innovating and catching up with what the world is doing. You cannot, of course there are certain products that the market likes as they are, that they don't need to change because we are in this constant change and we are afraid of it. We sometimes want certain products to stay the same, so we feel like we are keeping track of the reality. But since these markets are very specific, not all markets does this. Not every market it's going to stay the same way, but it has to be very specific products or services. I think that is a very important topic that is mentioned. And of course we have the infrastructure and connectivity, which the infrastructure is one of the least glamorous but most powerful drivers of competitiveness. It determines how efficiently people, goods, and information move. And in today's economies, movement is everything. Infrastructure includes transport networks, how like highways, railways, metro system, airports, also logistics systems such as ports, warehouses, and distribution centers. The digital connectivity that is the most important thing right now in the world, because that is the way we connect with each others. For example, the networks, what will we do without internet or without signal to communicate? We will be ruined right now because we depend on it. Of course, importantly, energy systems that ensure stable electricity and sustainable power, public services, water, the waste management, the urban, the transport. We have to be really we don't have to be really into all of this market ecosystem to know that we need all of those points mentioned to live normally. We now depend on them. We cannot walk kilometers. Now we have certain, for example, as I mentioned, airports, and it is a difficult world that we are living in, but we have to keep track of it. There's nothing we can do to stop this change. For example, South Korea, it invested heavily in high-speed internet infrastructure, making it one of the most connected countries in the world. Digital infrastructure is supported by the rise of major companies like Samsung and LG, which are very famous all around the world. And of course, when our region is connected physically and digitally, firms perform better, workers commute faster, and knowledge flows more freely. Infrastructure reduces transaction costs, increases productivity, and boosts quality of life. It might not feel the most exciting to us because we may not see it like it's happening right now in our faces, but it's part of a cycle and it's part of a change that we may see in the future, or we may see it in certain markets. But right now we may think that it is not important to us, but it really is, because that's how markets are shaped, by the changes. And what is changing? The world and us. We are adapting to the world, and we have been doing it since forever. But we may have this, as a human, we may think that we are the most intelligent creatures, but the world is, and we have to adapt to it. And of course, we have the human capital and talent, which means the knowledge, skills, and abilities of our region's people. The talent is now the most valuable resource in the world. And here's the truth. Regions don't compete for factories, they compete for people. A region with a skilled workforce will outperform one without it. even if the second has more natural resources or better geography or economic resources. When you have a great team and great human capital, there is nothing you can do to stop that market. And human capital includes educational levels, technical and vocational skills, problem solving, digital literacy, the ability to learn and adapt. That is something we have as humans. We can adapt to certain spaces, but now imagine if someone who is using their full capacity, they can change the market in a way that we can't imagine. And of course, today's labor is extremely dynamic because workers don't stay in one place out of obligation. They move to regions that offer good salaries, meaningful work, high quality of life, safety, stability, cultural amenities, sustainability, green spaces, because we want it or not, we depend on our jobs. And when we are in a place when a job doesn't offer all these commodities, we won't like them. And it's really hard right now to get a job that adjusts to our life, so we have to adjust to our work. For example, certain cities like Copenhagen, Toronto, Melbourne, and Seoul have mastered these commodities. Their workers are extremely comfortable in their workspace. And human capital amplifies every other driver of competitiveness. But here's the challenge. Talent is mobile, and regions must compete aggressively to retain it. This is why education system, worker training programs, and quality of life policies matter so much, because regions invest in people so they can win. Regions that don't invest in people, they'll lose. They won't keep on track. And of course, we have a specialization and clusters. The clusters are groups of firms from the same industry concentrated in one region. Are like economics ecosystems. Firms connect, suppliers enter the region, research institutions collaborate, talent flows, and innovation becomes faster. For example, we have certain clusters, such as the most famous is Hollywood, that is film and entertainment. And I think that is one of the most powerful chains and market. And of course, clusters offer several key advantages: access to specialized suppliers, faster innovation, shared labeled commodities, competition that drives excellence. Specialization really matters because regions can't be good at everything. They need to identify the industries where they can become excellent. And when a region explodes its strengths, whether natural resources, skilled labor, or cultural identity, it creates a competitive advantage. So what makes a region win? It's the combination of innovation, infrastructure, talent and labor, and specialization. These drivers create momentum, resilience, and long-term economic success. In the next episode, we'll explore how globalization transformed regional competitiveness and what challenges regions face in the 21st century. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next episode. Bye.